October, late afternoon. I'm standing at the edge of my garden, and there's almost nothing left. Brown stems, dry soil, a few weeds I stopped pulling in August. 14 raised beds, and the only thing alive is one tomato bush in the far corner that I forgot to water, forgot to feed, and honestly forgot existed. It has 4 red tomatoes on it. They're small, a little cracked, warm from the sun. I pick one and eat it standing there. It's the best tomato I've ever tasted. And I have no idea why it survived when everything else didn't. 6 months earlier, I knew exactly what I was doing. At least I thought I did. 30 years of teaching biology. I could draw the nitrogen cycle on a chalkboard in my sleep. I had read 4 books on raised bed gardening over the winter. I had a spreadsheet. April came. The soil was still cold. I could feel it through my gloves, that heavy, reluctant chill that means the ground isn't awake yet. I planted anyway. Tomatoes, peppers, zucchini. My wife looked at the beds and said they looked like a classroom. Within 10 days, a late frost came through. I woke up to wilted stems and blackened leaves. 14 out of 20 seedlings, gone. The soil was about 8 degrees below what those plants needed. I knew this number. I taught this number. I planted anyway. May. I replanted. This time I was careful about frost, but careless about water. I watered every morning. 15 minutes per bed with a hose from above. It seemed like the right thing. More water, more growth. That's not how it works. I was training the roots to stay near the surface, where the water was easy to reach. Shallow roots in shallow soil. When a hot week came in late May, 3 zucchini plants folded over like paper. I crouched next to them and pulled one out. The roots were thin, pale, barely reaching past the first few centimeters. I had kept them comfortable, and comfort made them weak. June was the fertilizer. Fresh chicken manure from a neighbor. I spread it thick, mixed it in, and waited. What came was nitrogen burn. Leaves turned yellow, then brown, then crisp. Within a week, my best pepper plants looked like they'd been through a fire. 30 years of teaching the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle taught me back. By July, I had mostly given up. I still went out every morning, but more out of habit than hope. I'd stand with my coffee and look at the beds, like a teacher looking at a classroom after the last day of school. Empty desks, that silence that isn't peaceful, it's absence. I thought about pulling everything out. Then in August, my wife said something. She said, "Go look at the corner." I walked over. The tomato bush I'd planted in April and completely neglected, no extra water, no fertilizer, no attention, was 2 feet tall and covered in green fruit. It had found its own water. It had grown its roots deep because nobody was offering them an easy drink near the surface. It didn't need my schedule or my spreadsheet or my 30 years of biology. It needed me to get out of the way. I sat on the ground next to that bush for a long time. A robin landed on the fence post, looked at me, and flew off. The soil under the mulch was dark and cool. I pushed my finger in, soft, almost spongy. Nothing like the hard, dry beds I'd been managing all summer. That one bush gave me about 4 kilograms of tomatoes by September. The rest of the garden gave me a sunburn and an education. My first year cost me roughly $110 and returned about $60 in food. But it returned something else I didn't put in any spreadsheet. I learned that knowing the science doesn't mean understanding the garden. That a textbook is a map, and a map is not territory. I'd spent 30 years showing students how the world works on paper, and my first real season in the dirt showed me that paper folds, but soil doesn't. That forgotten tomato bush is still the best teacher I've ever had, and I've had a few. Next time, one thing from the textbook that I believed for years. It cost me a whole bed before I learned to question it.